Well, my friends, here I am again, Brother Peter, with tidbits from the Word. I find myself in a place of a lack of communion with God in the sense of study. Because of that, at 3 o'clock, 2:30 or so, 3 o'clock, I was up 2:39 and started to put together an excerpt to put on for today on the computer. Well, I started with the Bible my cat is sitting on right now. I went to another book and I've read Walk and Run and not Crawl, but crawl first, then walk and run. And all of these are Bible-based books. And then I took another one here. I've been in here and for walking and running. And then I was in Streams from the Desert today. And looked at the human covenant and walking with God. And I was in this other book, which is I love this book right here. Streams in the Desert is 1925 was written. One of the best books I have, period. Of all the books that I have, that's one of the best. And then I have over here this book that I'm going to read out of right now, the purpose. The purpose. The purpose. What is the purpose in your life? What is the purpose in my life? Why am I still here? I'm 78, 79 years old and will soon be 80 years old. What is the purpose God has in my life? And even now, I don't think, as you would say, an 80-year-old would think. I still think like a 30-year-old would think, a 40-year-old would think. I still work like a 30 or 40-year-old would work. And as it would be, what I am is I'm a trained painter. And have learned how to paint with ease. Now, I'm also a Bible studier. Have I learned how to study the Bible with ease? Most of the time, yes. But here today, I got up, and I'm 2.5 hours, 3 hours ago, I started studying. And so that I would have something to put on that would be beneficial to those of you who click on for this day's particular thing going on. I come to a conclusion that I want to read this thing about purpose of mind in Mark 6:45. He made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side. Now he had prepared a storm for these fellows. And he told them to go ahead to the other side and he would meet them. So they left out to go to the other side, but they got in this storm. And they were frightened. So we tend to think that Jesus Christ compels us to do something and we are obedient to him. He will lead us to a great success, that we should never have the thought that our dreams are a success are God's purpose for us. In fact, he proposes many to be exactly the opposite. Hey, we would like everything to be pleasant and nice. And here the disciples got in the boat, and they're going to make a pleasant trip just across the lake to the other side. And for us, in fact, his purpose may be exactly the opposite. We have the idea that God is leading us toward a particular end and desired goal, but He is not. The question of whether or not we arrive at a particular goal is of little importance, and reaching it becomes merely the episode along the way. What we see and as only the processes of reaching a particular end, God sees as the goal itself. So He put the disciples in the boat, knowing they were going to go into a storm. But He also knew that He was going to walk up beside them and calm the storm. And the life that we're in, as we're walking through it, we have storms in us. I have to depend upon God to calm me every day. I was married some 50-something years, nearly 60 years, and my wife went on to heaven before me. It's something God has to calm me every day and calm my heart for that place that's hollow, that's empty, because she has gone on. And so I had to keep God in the forefront. And all of you who have the same situation, perhaps your mother has left and gone on before you, or your father, and or somebody close to you, and you have that little hole there in your heart. You've got to fill it with God. But I've been studying now for 2.5 straight hours, catching up on some studying, some reading. That is my fault, that I have not done my daily homework. And because I've not done my daily homework, I find myself sitting down before the computer, and I have a need, I'm wanting for some study. I'm wanting to draw close to God and say, God, well, in the last few days, what have you been showing me? What have you been telling me? And the Lord says to me, the last few days, you haven't been digging in. You hadn't been opening the books. You hadn't been feeding yourself with this stuff that I've allowed you to have around you. And because you haven't, you find yourself vacant of something to say. And what you are is what you can say. What is my vision of God's purpose for me? That's a good question. I have a book before me that says, what is God's purpose in mind? What is God's purpose for me? Whatever it may be, His purpose is for me to depend on Him and on Him, His power. How do you do that? How do you get His power and keep it in your life? You stay in the book. If you're out of the book, your power will wane. It will decrease. And as it decreases, you get further away. And so you must increase. How do you increase in the power of the Lord? Stay in His book. If He says right here, if I can stay calm, if I can stay faithful, if I can stay unconfused while in the middle of turmoil of life, the goal and the purpose of God is being accomplished in me. If I can stay calm in the middle of this life, which this life is a storm. We are in a storm. We do come to some calm places, but we're actually walking in a storm. God is not walking toward or working toward a particular finish. His purpose is the process itself. What He desires from me is that I see Him walking on the sea. See, the disciples saw him walking on the sea. It calmed them down. They said, wow. With no shore, no success, no goal in sight, but simply having the absolute certainty that everything is all right because I see him walking on the sea. Man. Mark 6:49. It is the process, not the outcome, that glorifies God. Isn't that something? We think the end of the matter is where the glorification is. And that's not exactly always true. The glorification is it with God, and you keep him in the process and him before you. The glorification is in the walking through the thing. God is training for now, not later. His purpose is for this very minute, not for something in the future. We are wrong to concern ourselves with it. What people call preparation, God sees as the goal itself. We are in the goal and completing the goal itself while we're in the preparation. We're actually, see, Jesus walking on the water up by there to calm them. And if we want to be calm and obedient, let's see what God's training for now, not later. His purpose is for the very minute, not for something in the future. We have nothing to do with what we follow our obedience, and we are wrong to concern ourselves with it. What people call preparation, God sees as the goal itself. What is his goal? That we do prepare, that we get in preparation, and that we learn how to daily prepare. That night before, when you go to bed, you should be preparing for how you're going to wake up in the morning, how your spirit's going to be in the morning. Are you going to be pleasant? If you're a lady, are you going to get up? Be pleasant. Fry a couple eggs for your husband or something and toast and say, hon, your breakfast is on the table, it's ready. You need to eat it while it's hot. For some of you ladies, if you did that, it might shock your husband to death. But some of you ladies do that. God's purpose is to enable me to see that he can walk on a storm of my life right now. Are you in a storm? If you're living and you're a human being, you're in some kind of storm, I'm sure. Our life daily is one storm behind the other. How do you face those storms? Just now, this cat of mine walked across in front of my Bible and my doing business with the Lord. And then it walked back across. That did not interfere with my heart and my desire and my work. It did not interfere. Well, that's what life is. Here we get in something, we start in it, and something walks across. Don't let what walks across disturb you. You may be quick to be offensive. I have found myself that way before. Back when I was young and married, my wife might say something and I would come back with something derogative or quick or not respectful. We have to be careful we don't do that. If we have a further goal in mind, which is to serve God and to be right in His presence, we are not paying enough attention to the present time if we're not careful. Pay attention to your present time right now. Where are you in God's eyes? Are you where He can be in connection with you 100%? Or are you out on the side somewhere? However, if we realize that moment by moment, listen to this, moment by moment, obedience is the goal. Then each moment is precious. If we're obedient to God, each moment that we live is a precious moment. We need to thank God for this breath. I just took a moment to take. God made this air. He gave it to us. Hey, this thing called this COVID thing, a man loses his breath. A man can't breathe. A person can't breathe. He loses his breath. That's a scary thing. And we breathe instantly over and over and over again. I don't know how many times a day. Whew, the average man might breathe. But it's thousands, I suspect. And God gives us that ability. He made this body to function, to take that air in and transforms it into this body, into something massive and great. Where are you and I today in the eyes of God is the question. He made His disciples get in the boat, remember? And He said, you take off. And then He sent the storm. And then He walks up in the storm beside them and says, how about it, fellas? He walks over, gets in the ship, and just calms the storm. Said, be at peace. And the storm was gone. It was at peace. And the disciples were baffled that this man, Jesus, even though they knew Him well, and they should have known that He's the one that could make the storm, He's the one that can calm the storm. So if you're in a storm in your life, put your trust in Jesus. Look over in that storm at the side and see Him walking along beside you. And say to Him, Jesus, will you calm this storm for me? You know what He'll say? It is calm. And He'll calm it for you. And you be calm. Try it. And see if it doesn't work. Look, keep your daily prayer up. Keep your daily walk with God concise. You say, well, I'm a secretary, I'm at work. You can be at work and still have God on the throne in your life. You can actually be at work and say, oh, Lord, I've got a telephone call to make, and I've got to encourage this person to pay this bill. Would you give me some insight? And so you call, and John Doe answers, and you say, John Doe, this is so-and-so from a certain collection agency, and I would like to know, is there any way possible that you could pay some on this bill? I really don't want to I ask you for more than you can do, but could you do something? And we would really appreciate it. What a way to talk to that person. What a way to be concise and say, be pleasant. And so the guy won't slam the phone down and be mad. And say, I ain't going to pay him anyway now, from now on. So, God is wanting us to be that way. So you can be that way, if you will. Behold, he is coming with the clouds one day. And when he comes, he's bringing with him the rewards that you and I have made on this earth. And we're going to be rewarded. We are building a mansion in heaven. Have you sent anything up there today? Did you get up in the morning and when your feet hit the floor say, Lord, wow, I can feel the floor, thank you. There are so many people who can't turn around on a bed and put their feet on the floor and feel the floor. They are laying paralyzed for years sometimes. And you can put your feet on the floor. You need to thank the Lord. That you can put one foot in front of the other. You need to thank the Lord. Listen, we are in this life that is a stormy life at best, outside in the body. But Jesus did not commit himself to them, for he knew what was in man. Sometimes it's difficult. In John chapter 2, 24 and 25, he talks about it's sometimes difficult. But in James, he said, be patient, because patience has a perfect work. That you can be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. James 1 and 4. I want to be that person. I want to be that person that's complete in the Lord, lacking nothing. How do you do that? You keep your mind stayed upon him, Jesus. You keep your heart stayed upon him. And as of the last few days, I have failed. I kept my mind on him, but I failed to do my research and stuff. That's why I'm sitting here with a couple, 3 hours of a dozen Bibles open and books and studying and reading and seeing, Lord, where am I? What is my situation? What is my problem? And the Lord's saying, hey, Peter, I've been walking right beside you. You've been in the storm. I've been walking right beside you, and you hadn't acknowledged me. Acknowledge me in the process. It's tomorrow when you go climb underneath the vehicle. And you ask me to show you, I will show you the situation. Which in the morning I'm going to do that. I'm going to crawl under a vehicle that has a problem that I've been troubleshooting. But have I laid there and asked the Lord, show me, Lord? No. I have searched and researched. But I haven't asked the Lord, you show it to me. I'll do that in the morning. I'm going to commit to that. Have you got something you need to commit to? Commit it to the Lord. And then face it that way, and he will answer. I'm going to commit to him in the morning. I'm going to commit right now that I'm going to commit in the morning to him to show me the situation and help me through it, so that the reward is not only for myself, the reward is for others, many others, and the reward is for the church and for the Lord. My life is not to make money for me. My life is to make money that I can help others, and that others can be helped, and that the church can be helped. Right now, in this pandemic, you say, well, it's made a pandemic financially for the church. The church still has to pay a $1,500 light bill, supposedly, and no people there, but all the air conditioners have got to run. Everything's got to run. You can't shut it all down and then crank it all back up. A month from now, it won't work right. it will have problems. So it has to run on a regular basis. It has to keep the temperatures right. It has to do things. It's set up that way, and it costs money. But if people aren't there, where is the money? Some have the front to send it in anyway, and others do not. And that causes every little penny counts. Every little cent counts. And so, just in life in general, there are situations in life in general. And we need to answer the call of those situations. So we are eternally God's, and He cares for us. And He's not just in us, He's also walking beside us, as He did those men in that ship on that stormy sea. And if we will look at Him and ask Him for direction, He'll say, follow me. And if we'll follow Him, the direction will be right. Well, we'll see you next time. It's Brother Peter saying,